Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear radio listeners, and welcome back to this new appointment of Gianlive. So the daily reading of the first pages of the major international newspapers just for you. So today, Thursday, February 24th, 2022. So let's start with the first page of the Les Parisiens, Paris newspaper. Rungis, page 3. La mini-centrale école qui forme au nucléaire. Oise, manque d'effectifs. Les pompiers lancent l'alerte. Page 60. Charlène de Monaco, héroïne des mangas. Page 27. Les grands retours du Salon de l'agriculture. Retrouvailles annulées en 2021. Les salons s'ouvrent samedi à Paris sur fond d'inquiétude du monde rural. Pages 2 et 3. Présidentielle. Face à nos lecteurs, Yannick Jadot défend un modèle agricole durable. Pages 8 et 9. Supplément. Plongée chez ces producteurs qui cultivent la santé et le bien-être. Cahier central. Sur la droite, les banques d'essai des concurrents des SNCF Connect, à page 13. Baromètre, le télétravail s'installe dans nos vies, à page 12. So let's continue now with the first page of the newspaper, the Wall Street Journal from the United States. On the top, any provocation, any spark could trigger a blaze that will destroy everything. Ukrainian President Zelensky. We will strive to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. Russian President Putin. Putin has chosen a premeditated war that will bring a catastrophic loss of life. President Biden. Title in bold: Russia strikes Ukraine. Air attacks, missiles hit Kiev, other cities. Biden pledges further steps to punish Putin. Russian missiles and airstrikes hit Ukraine's capital Kiev and more than a dozen other cities across the country. Thursday, minutes after President Vladimir Putin announced a military operation that he said seeks to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine and bring its leaders to trial. By Yaroslav Trofimov, Alan Callison and Brad Forrest in Kiev, and Anna Simons in Moscow. From all of you, we need calm, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in an early morning television address. We are working, our army is working. Don't panic, we are strong, we are ready for anything, we will overcome. He said he has ordered martial law and has spoken with President Biden about the attack. Ukrainian officials said that the initial wave of strikes targeted military installations, airfields and government facilities across the country, as well as border force installations. In Kharkov, eastern Ukraine's largest city, residents said a large fire was visible in the morning darkness after what appeared to be a hit at a weapon depot. Heavy shelling targeted the city of Mariupol on the Azov Sea. Air raid sirens sounded in Kiev after 7 a.m. While the Ukrainian military didn't release casualty figures, a senior Ukrainian official said he believed that hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers died in Russian airstrikes and missile attacks. Russia denied conducting missile, air, or artillery strikes on Ukrainian cities or threatening civilian populations. The country's Ministry of Defense told the Russian state news agency RIA Novosti. President Biden called Mr. Putin's move an unprovoked, unjustified attack in Ukraine, pledging further action against Russia. President Putin has chosen a premeditated war that will bring a catastrophic loss of life and human suffering, he said in a statement. Later, Mr. Biden said he would be meeting Thursday with leaders of the group of... Please turn to page A9 to continue. Germany takes steps to end Russian gas reliance. A7. Biden faces a new foreign policy test. A9. We have the picture of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, right in the first page, speaking in Russian in a video address, said his nation posed no threat to Russia and that a conflict could cause tens of thousands of victims. Crisis sets new struggle for global supremacy. By Michael Gordon. Russia's audacious military assault on Ukraine is the first major clash marking a new order in international politics, with three major powers jostling for position in ways that threaten America's primacy. The challenges are different than those the United States and its network of alliances faced in the Cold War. Russia and China have built a thriving partnership based in part on a shared interest in diminishing US power. Unlike the Sino-Soviet bloc of the 1950s, Russia is a critical gas supplier to Europe, while China isn't an impoverished, war-ravaged partner, but the world's manufacturing powerhouse with an expanding military. In deploying a huge force and on Thursday ordering what he called the special military operation, Russian President Vladimir Putin is demanding that the West rewrite the post-Cold War security arrangements for Europe and demonstrated that Russia has the military capability to impose its will despite Western objections and sanctions. To do this, Mr. Putin shifted military units from Russia's borders with China, showing confidence in his relations with Beijing. The two powers, in effect, are coordinating to reshape the global order to their advantage, though their ties stop short of a formal alliance. This emerging order leaves the US contending with two adversaries at once in geographically disparate parts of the world where America is. Please turn to page A8 to continue. Wreck, Ukraine, clash puts dagger in globalization. Continue. At page A2. West is lining up for their sanctions. The US and its allies are poised to unveil further sanctions now that Russia has launched what President Biden called an unprovoked and unjustified attack on Ukraine, hoping a fresh tranche of penalties will have a greater deterrent effect than the first set. By Jan Talley in Washington and Lawrence Norman in Berlin. On Tuesday, after Russian President Vladimir Putin sent troops into two breakaway regions of Ukraine, Western nations imposed sanctions on Russian sovereign debt. 6 Russian banks, several wealthy Russians linked to Mr. Putin's inner circle, Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and other high officials, and halted the Nord Stream 2 natural gas pipeline. A senior US administration official described the measures as only the sharp edge of the pain we can inflict. US, European Union, and British officials say they had other, more powerful financial weapons in their arsenal and were primed to use them as Mr. Putin escalated. Those include sanctions on much larger Russian banks, a ban on investment in Russian gas projects, and export controls designed to deprive Russian industry of technology needed for long-term economic growth. Late Wednesday, Mr. Biden said he would, in the morning, announce further consequences on Russia. The previous day, a senior administration official said potential plans include hitting the country's most critical banks. No Russian financial institution is safe if this invasion proceeds, the official said. US officials say that taken as a whole, the sanctions are intended to shock Russians. ... Please turn to page A7 to continue. Big companies rush to plan for repercussions of attack by Alistair MacDonald and Nick Kostov. Western companies with operations in Russia and Ukraine are preparing for the potential impact of sanctions on their businesses there and readying contingency plans in the event of further military action, after President Vladimir Putin of Russia sent troops into 2 breakaway regions of Ukraine. The US and its European allies this week rolled out a range of sanctions against Russia, which they have promised to ratchet up. Those measures might include sanctions against big Russian companies and the country's business elite. Such moves, though, could also complicate operations for multinationals that have operations in Russia and that often join with Russian companies and businessmen. Big oil companies including BP plc, ExxonMobil Corporation, and Shell plc have substantial investments in Russia, as do brewing giant Carlsberg AS and automaker Renault SA. On Wednesday, the chief please turn to page A8 to continue. Russia's move against Ukraine rolls markets. Please turn to page B1 to continue. At the bottom of the page, non-COVID death eat life insurers' earnings by Leslie Shasp. US life insurers, as expected, made a large number of COVID-19 death benefit payouts last year. More surprisingly, many saw a jump in other death claims too. Industry executives and actuaries believe many of these other fatalities are tied to delays in medical care as a result of lockdown in 2020, and then later people's fears of seeking out treatment and travel lining up appointments. Some insurers see continued high levels of these deaths for some time, even if COVID-19 death declined this year. In earnings calls for the past 2 quarters, Global Life Inc., Hartford Financial Services Group Inc., Primerica Inc., and the Reinsurance Group of America Inc. were among insurers nothing higher non-COVID-19 death compared with pre-pandemic baselines. The losses we are seeing continue to be elevated over 2019 levels due to, at least in part, we believe, to the pandemic and the existence of either delayed or unavailable healthcare. Global Life Finance Chief Frank Svoboda told analysts and investors earlier this month. Among the non-coronavirus specific claims are death from heart and circulatory issues and neurological disorders, he said. We anticipate that they'll start to be less impactful over the course of 2022, but we do anticipate that we'll still at least see some elevated levels throughout the year, he said. Primerica executives similarly cautioned in their fourth quarter call about outsized numbers of non-COVID-19. Please turn to page A6. New Omicron strain presents a speed bump, A6. Maternal deaths rose in pandemic's first year, A6. Inside, Business and Finance online used car seller, Carvana is tested as the tailwinds that boosted growth fade. B1. Personal Journal, craft beer's hot new thing is a cold, crisp lager that couldn't be further from long popular. IPAs, A11. Finally, on the left side of the first page, what's news, business and finance. Investors rushed for safety, pushing down stocks and lifting the prices of oil, gold, and government bonds after Russia's Putin launched a military operation in Ukraine.